Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English, and this is your favorite YouTuber Mukesh Soni. Friends, in this video I'll summarize a very interesting story. Marriage is like a tanga. Wow, शादी एक tanga है. Marriage is like a tanga by written by famous Kashmiri writer, Kashmiri poet who lives in England, who also write some columns for the Hindu newspaper. Saba Hahjoor. Her name is Saba Hahjoor. So let's know about the story. Marriage is like a Tanga. Marriage is like a Tanga by Saba Hahjoor. It's a short personal story about a newly married woman in Kashmir who is told who has been told not to call her husband by his name as a sign of respect. So in our country, generally, a wife doesn't call her husband by her name. So generally, they say, "Ari, suno ji, sunte ho kya ji?" So they use such kind of term. They don't call by their husband by name. Call husband by the name, by his or his name. Sorry. Confused and uncomfortable, she shares her feelings with her aunt, who is very wise, Fufi, who helps her see that marriage should be a partnership, not based on the outdated customs. So the story gently challenges the gender roles and shows how small acts of love and understanding can lead to the meaningful change. So let's begin the story, and I have tried to divide the story in about 5 or 6 parts or the sections. So part wise or the section wise, we'll try to understand. So part one says the unexpected demand. So this image is the AI generated image. Let me and disclaimer here, it's an AI generated image. So the part one is the unexpected demand. So what is the unexpected demand? Marriage and the instruction. So soon after her wedding, Saba is married. I mean, to say Saba has just recently married. Saba, the writer, and soon after her wedding, she moves in with her husband's family. Obviously, she has to stay with her husband's family. So there's a custom in many Indian and in many Kashmiri families that the new bride is closely observed for the very first few days. For the very first few days, everybody will observe very closely because everything is new. People, custom, responsibilities. And for Saba, there's one thing is very new because there's one instruction. One very strange instruction is here for Saba. What is a strange instruction for Saba? She has been told that she should not call her husband by his name. Instead of that, she should call her husband as the Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, आओ जी इधर, Dr. Saab बैठो. Like, instead of, she should not call her husband by his name. She should call her husband by the title Dr. Saab, which is a very respectful title due to his profession. That means to say, Saba's husband is a doctor and she cannot call her husband by his name. So she has to use a very respectful term called Dr. Saab. Okay, so this is the instruction. Now there's an inner conflict in Saba. What happens? Saba feels uncomfortable and hurt. She feels that it's unfair. It's not logical. Why a wife is allowed to say her husband, I'm sorry, why a wife is not allowed to say her husband's name while the husband freely calls her by her name? ऐसे क्यों होता है? Right? She thinks that why is this? It's so illogical that husband अपनी बीवी को उसके नाम से बुला सकता है, लेकिन बीवी अपने husband को उसके नाम से नहीं बुला सकती है. Why? This might seem like a small thing, but it reflects with a deep-rooted patriarchy, where women are expected to show respect in such a manner which is going to reduce their own identity. Sabah tries to get the answer of this question. She tries to get answers why she should not call her husband by his name. When she asks her elderly aunt about it, she suggests that if saying someone's name is disrespectful, then should not be husband call his wife Sabaji. Right? She asks this question. Okay, you say that. You say that. someone's name is calling someone by the names is disrespectful, then husband should not call his wife also at Sabaji. Why my husband is calling me by my name Sabaji? He should not call me by my name also when I'm not allowed to call my husband by his name. So this question she asked to one of the elderly aunts in the house, right? Now in the part two, emotional build up, right? Some sort of emotional trauma is happening here. Sabah tries to ignore the pressure from relatives, but inside, it continues to disturb her. She feels like her personal boundaries are being crossed. And being newly married, she doesn't want to cause the trouble. Even she's not questioning more. She's in a very delicate position. She's not sure that how much she can push back without upsetting the harmony of her new home. Means to say, she's not sure that how much she can ask more questions, or can she resolve this issue, which is really like kind of boiling her mind, right? So, this part of the story shows how social expectations can slowly suffocate a person, even without the loud noise, loud fights, or any kind of loud abuse. Without saying a lot, a person can feel suffocation when a person is overburdened by the customs or by the traditions. Now, the part three begins here. So, there's one person is going to visit Saba's house, Fufi. Now, who is Fufi means aunt. So, during the first week of marriage, there's a tradition. What's the tradition? Relatives from the bride's side should come to bride's new home to check how is she living. Is she okay? So, one day, her Fufi means paternal aunt. Paternal means from father's side, Papa ki family se paternal aunt Fufi has come here to meet her after first or during the first week. So after tea, Fufi invites Saba to take a walk in the garden, specifically to see a handsome walnut tree. So Fufi says, "Okay, chai pani ho gaya. Now let's go. Let's come, Saba. We'll have a walk in the garden, especially nearby the nice walnut tree." So this is just about the tree. It's a way of gently pulling Saba away from the noise of the house and into a safe space to talk freely. Because she's also guest and she cannot talk freely in the new house where she's not much well acquainted with the family members. So she just says that, okay, Sabah, let's come out. We'll just have a walk in the garden. I'll show you a very nice walnut tree. चलो कुछ थोड़ा garden में घूम के आते हैं, right? Now, now, heart to heart talk under the walnut tree. So both aunt, that is Fofi and Saba, they are seated under the tree, under the walnut tree, and let's see what happens. They sit under the shade of the tree, and Fofi takes out a small parcel toasted walnuts, which has sugar coated, which are wrapped in some sort of muslin, a kind of a cover, cloth cover. And this small gift shows comfort, wisdom, and tradition, but in a very nourishing way. It is not a restrictive one. Means to say, not such kind of restriction. It's like she has brought a kind of gift. Generally, it happens to most of the old people. They bring something whenever they go and meet the daughter or the granddaughters, right? This image is the AI generated image. Let me say now only, not the real image. So here, Fufi, the aunt, asked Saba, "What's the trouble her with great affection?" She asked the one question, "Is everything okay? Are you facing any trouble?" So with affection, she asked this question. And she asked, "What disturbs the peace of my gash?" Gash means light of my eyes. What disturbs the peace of my gash? When she asks this question, Sabah finally opens up about her frustration and confusion. Then Sabah vomits. She says that, "Look, here, custom is very different. I cannot call my husband by his name, and he calls me by my name. Why is it like this?" So she opens up and she just says all her frustration and all the confusion. Now, after hearing Saba's troublesome story, Saba's emotional story, Fufi goes back in the flashback. Now Fufi says that Madam Saba, it is not common for you. It's very much common for everybody. Now Fufi's story, a mirror from the past. Fufi starts telling her story. What does Fufi say here after listening to Saba? Fufi shares her own experience as a young bride. During her early marriage, she also faced restrictions, but even more intense. That time, women had no voice. They were told to remain quiet, to endure everything with sabr. Sabr means patience, and to never question about their roles. So she says that there's nothing. I have faced so many troubles during my early stage of my marriage, my wedding. There were so many restrictions. We never used to raise our voice, and you are talking about your story. We used to have a lot of sabr. Sabr means patience. Fufi recalls how her biggest pain was not the physical labor or the strict rules. What's the main pain? Something emotional and quiet. What was something emotional and quiet pain? She says that after having her baby, she used to serve food to everyone, feed the child. Then only she could have her own meal alone and in the cold. She had cooked the food with love, but she had no joy in eating it. This moment stands out. Why? Because even small acts of injustice, when which is repeated every day, which will always break a person's spirit. So here, Fufi finally told her husband. Fufi opened up to her husband, and at first, she felt foolish. She said, how she felt foolish. How could he help in a household where women had nothing to say? Right? She told all these things. But one evening, what happened? Fufi's husband picked up the baby, told her, "You eat first." Right? He took the initiative. He brought a change. He said, "My dear, you eat first. I'll take care of our baby." That moment changed her life. It was simple, but very much powerful. Her husband recognized her need and took a step forward, even though it surprised and shocked everybody in the family. That became the foundation of their marriage. Quiet support, shared responsibilities, and mutual respect. So this is the Fufi story which Fufi is telling to Saba after listening to Saba's emotional this one turmoil, that why I cannot call my husband by his name. Now coming back. Fufi is using a metaphor here, very beautiful metaphor, and she says $1 million statement. She says, "My dear, a marriage is like a tanga. It is something like a bullock cart. Why? It needs two wheels. If one wheel is broken, the cart goes around in circles or gets dragged by bull with no direction. That means a marriage needs balance and partnership. If only one person pulls all the weight and makes all the effort, the relationship becomes very much tiring, unstable, and unfair." This is the meaning of this beautiful metaphor immediately, which she pours out, and she says, "Marriage is like a tanga, my dear Saba." And Saba takes action. What action? After listening to this, Saba reflects deeply on her aunt's words and finally talks to her husband. She gathers the courage and she speaks to her husband. She shares her feelings. He doesn't say anything immediately, but he listens. He listens very keenly. What is Saba saying? A few days later, after a few days, he starts calling her Mayozu, means to say my life, a deeply loving and personal term, unheard of in public among married couples in traditional Kashmiri culture. First time somebody would have called his wife saying Mayozu. my life. Everybody got shocked. What is this? He's calling his wife like this. This is not just a term of affection, it's a symbol of his support for her voice, her identity, and their equal partnership. So, what's the reaction of the society? And we always remember that change will always bring shock, and people do not accept the change so easily. So, people around them they react with the disapproval. Elders sigh, they make sarcastic comments about there's a modesty being lost. हमारी तो इज्जत खराब हो गई, इज्जत चली गई. Saying things, this must be a sign of the whole world, पूरी दुनिया खत्म हो जाएगी, right? The whole world will go, and they're all using such kind of terms, such kind of words, right? Everybody's commenting this manner, but to Saba, it's a small victory, one step ahead, a step forward. It may not have changed the whole world, but it changed her world and set a new example. Remember, very nice line is here. This step, which has been taken by her husband, because Sabah has spoken to him very openly, look, this is my feelings and my emotions, and this kind of step which her husband has taken in calling her as my life, this may not have changed the whole world, but it has changed Sabah's world. It has set a new example, a new milestone for everybody in the society. So let's conclude the story. What's the conclusion? I would say a new story is born. एक नई कहानी का जन्म हुआ है. So what's the new story? The story ends on a very poetic and powerful note. So the story ends with one very poetic note. What's the note is here? A story is told in a hushed voices in a small village in Kashmir about men who held a baby so his wife could eat in peace, and a man who chose the love of his wife over the ways of the world. This shows that real change often begins quietly with love, courage, and a willingness to question injustice. So, friends, this is how what we learn from this story. The story Marriage is Like a Tanga by Saba is going to teach us. What does the story teach us? The story teaches us that cultural traditions must evolve when they are unfair. Small acts of love can challenge centuries of inequality. Marriage should be a partnership, not a power imbalance. Women need to be heard, not silenced. And finally, courage is contagious when one person dares to question, others begin to imagine a better way also. So this is how I have tried to give a brief summary about the famous story Marriage is Like a Tanga by Saba Mahfouz, the famous Kashmiri writer. So friends, hope you have liked this video. Click on the like button, write your opinion about this video in the comment box, and also subscribe the channel if you've not yet done it. And this story is in the syllabus of second semester BCom General English under Bangalore City University. Thank you so much. Stay tuned with Mukesh English.